So we're in week 5 of Bless, and the focus this week is on the first S of Bless, which is serve. And when you're doing those first 3 Bless practices, you're regularly praying for people, you're listening to them, you're eating together, then they'll tell you how to love them and how you can serve them if you're listening out for it. So this is about taking the opportunities to be like Jesus to them, loving them and serving them. And Heather's story that we just heard is just a great example of the power of lovingly serving someone. And, this is the stuff that just goes on quietly in the background by people who know they've been blessed in order to be a blessing to others. It's not a big evangelistic sermon, it's not an altar call, but this is the stuff that wins people to Christ and shows them what he's like. So it's great to be joined again for this discussion by Neil Bartlett, senior pastor of the church, who spoke on this theme on Sunday, and Ruth Wayman, who plays a key role in the whole area of pastoral care in the church. So thank you both for being here again.
Great.
So, first question to think about is just thinking of your own life. Can you think of a time when you've been served in a particular way by someone and how that affected you? Neil, what do you think?
Yeah, I suppose it's where would you start? Because I think we've been served by so many people, and you're thinking, well, which one do I pick out here? And I was talking to Des about this, and the occasion that we brought to mind was 40 years ago when we were expecting our first child, Hannah. And I didn't have a job. We had our first property, so we just started a mortgage. I was on a government training scheme. There was not a lot of money coming into the house. And this couple, who were about a similar age to us, with young children, they came to us and they said that they wanted to give us £25 a month for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. You cannot the blessing that was. They kept that up for 2 years. So they saw us through all sorts of training programs and getting established into a job. And we felt just loved, absolutely loved. It was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Ruth, what about you?
So my husband Rich and I have been served by people many times, particularly during times of crisis and life changes, pregnancies, births.
Yes.
When we got married, so many people from the church kind of helped us out and served us on our wedding day, which was amazing. But as I was thinking about this, I was thinking, actually, I don't think I'm a very easy person to serve. Most people wouldn't know if I had a need. Most people, I kind of keep this aura of, I'm not particularly needy. I like to kind of keep that about myself. And so I think it's probably difficult for people to know, if it's not a time of crisis, how best they would serve me.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, actually, how we can, what image we can project to others and in this area. And I very much resonate with what you said, Neil, about we've had the same experience of people in the past regularly giving us an amount each month just to help us out at a time when we had really very, very little, and we've been blessed financially in amazing ways over the years. But then, like you said, Ruth, in crisis times, I remember a few years back when Suzanne, my wife, suddenly had to go into hospital with appendicitis, ruptured appendix, and suddenly it's like, oh, what do we do now? And people step up and they help with the kids and food and all that kind of thing. It's amazing how people do that. And that's one of the amazing things about being part of the church, of course.
It is.
And in us serving and seeking to serve others outside the church, it's almost like showing them this is what life in God and life in the church is like.
It's true.
That we are really, really blessed by each other.
That's right.
So just to drill down a little bit on that, though, because we've given some specific examples of how we've been served, and there are many more, as you said, Ruth, lots of occasions when you've been served. But what do we mean by this? What do we mean by serving people? What does serving people really look like? Neil, what do you think?
I think there are big matters that evident things of serving, and then there's the little things of serving that are quite hidden, really. I was thinking about the homeless shelter that we run here at King's during January to beginning of April, and all those people that are involved with that, some people wash the blankets and the bedding, some people get in there and they set up everything, some people do the meals. Most of it goes unknown and it's unseen. It's a sort of hidden service. And the thing that struck me about it was it's consistent. It's week in, week out, week in, week out. And yet nobody knows. I think it's such a grace about serving in hidden ways, not noticed by most people. I think it's an incredible kindness, and it esteems and values people, not looking for anything in reward, not looking for any sort of acclamation, really. It's I'm impressed by it.
Yeah. Right, you, Ruth, any thoughts on just what is serving? How do we serve other people?
So just as you were talking, I was just thinking about in Philippians where it says about Jesus taking on the nature of a servant.
Yeah.
I'm thinking how actually when we serve others, we're being like Jesus to them.
Yeah.
And, thinking how he washed his disciples' feet and how he served us by dying for us, and he made himself nothing, and he looked out for us when, he was God and he had no need to do that, but he wanted to.
Yeah.
I guess that's what serving looks like.
Yeah.
Being like Jesus to others.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can be different for different people. It depends on the person, how well we're listening to them as to how we serve them.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing is listening out for their needs and listening out for how we can love them, to love them in the way that Jesus would love them. Absolutely. And I think one we often overlook actually probably is praying for people. I mean, you were talking to me earlier about a guy that you've been praying for and you've told him. I think we can often resist praying for people or telling them because we're worried about the response or praying for healing because we think, well, what if the healing doesn't happen? Just tell us a little bit about...
Well, it was after John spoke on Sunday, and I thought, I'm going to text you and tell you I've been praying for you, and I'm praying that that your heart would be lifted, and that your body would be made well, and that's all I did. And in a very short space of time, he just responded and said, "Thank you ever so much. Really appreciate it." So sometimes I'm thinking, shall I send a text? Shall I not send a text? And after John's word on Sunday, I thought, I'm going to send a text, and it was really appreciated.
Yeah. It was when we saw Rich's your husband's story in the first week of Bless as well. Actually, one thing that struck me was when he said that Stuart offered to pray for him in this situation, and his response to that was, and I just saw that as really kind. Yeah. He didn't think, "What do you mean pray for me? Why would you do that?" He just saw it as really kind, and I think we can sometimes worry that people are going to receive it in another way. I think generally, if we say, "No, I'm praying for you," and we tell people, I think they receive it as a real kindness and an act of service. And I'm also reminded of the scripture we started this series with in John chapter 4, of how Jesus actually served this woman by letting her serve him. He made himself vulnerable and gave her the opportunity to serve him. And I think that was a very powerful thing as well.
John, I was thinking about the little ways that we can serve people, and one of the key ways is listening to people. I mean, I wish I was better at it because. I just wish I was better at it, but it's that gives you an awareness of where others are at, and you get to know what's behind, what's really going on in the person's life. That makes and that's why serving is such a personal thing, and it brings great value to people. And the simple act of listening is very, very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to have to leave that there. There are obviously lots of things. I think we established serving is a really good thing. It's being like Jesus to people. But there are things which stop us. We get busy. This is like with all of these blessed practices. We get busy. We get preoccupied with our own stuff. So we can easily forget to serve people and forget that actually it's one of the most powerful things that we can do for people. But thank you both for taking part in the discussion. And we're loving hearing the stories of what God is doing through Bless already. If you're sitting there thinking, but I don't have a story like that, I don't have a story of how God's used Bless yet, that's okay. Because as we said right back in the first week, remember this is a journey, that we're in this for the long haul. This is about loving people for the long haul. So just keep being consistent with pursuing those blessed practices, keep being intentional with that, and just see what God will do.